Hey everyone, so real quick, I recently became a partner in the content creator program. So if you want to support me, I'll leave this link below. You go down to the search bar and you type in ZEP YT, ZEP YouTube, and click the support button. If you do this, if I get to 30 supporters, I'll be able to give out codes to my supporters. And I also get a small percentage back of what you guys spend in game for points to use in the game to be a little more inefficient with my time and energy to get you more valuable content. So if you want to do that, I'd really appreciate it. But anyway, back to the video. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another King Arthur Legends Rise video. So in today's video, guys, we're going to be going over a hero that I think looks really bad on paper, but ends up overperforming. And that's Claudas. So Claudas has a lot of attack gauge reduction within her kit, and it's a very low percentage. However, for some reason, it just ends up working. Like, the amount of percentage that it takes off is just enough to make it useful. So let's talk about some of her passives, and we'll talk about her baseline relic, which is fire. So her first passive is Cold-Blooded Hunter, and she has a 70% chance to gain attack speed increase 1 for 2 turns if it's not leveled up, or you could skill it up to 3 turns. And this is whenever an ally attacks. So anytime an ally attacks on a 2-turn cooldown, she has a 70% chance to gain attack speed increase 1. This ties into other things within her kit, and we'll talk about that now, but getting attack speed increase is very good. So her second passive is after using skill 1 while having attack speed increase, she has a 100% chance to reduce the target's attack gauge by 20%. This is if it's skilled up. So it's 90% chance to reduce 10% attack gauge. So even at 100% chance to reduce it by 20%, that seems really low, right? Like, it seems like a low percentage. However, the way that ends up working itself out, for some reason, it just works. I don't know why, but the 20% is enough. And then on her skill 3, I have her chivalry 1, so it adds this additional thing. However, it's just 80% chance to trigger when using skill 3 while having attack speed increase. She gains amplification, which means she increases her vigor, and then she also gives herself effect accuracy increase 2 for a turn. If you have her chivalry, she gets these other things, but you don't really even use her third passive because you don't use her skill 3. So first things to note here, right? A lot of skill 1 related things. If she gets attack speed increase, then she gets, an additional buff on her skill 1 with reducing the attack gauge. It's pretty nice that both of the passives that you want leveled up are your first passive and then your second passive. So that means, before you get her up to level 30, you can level up her first passive 1 time, and then before getting her to level 50, you can level up the second passive twice, which is great because it takes a very small amount of resources, for the talismans as well as the brooches, and you have a fully functional Claudas. On top of that, let's see here. For her chivalries, I'm not quite sure what this tier 3 means. This is referring to the second passive. It says the second passive has a 35% chance to charge this hero's attack gauge by 100%. That makes sense. But then it says you gain prepare skill 1. I don't know what that is. However, the 100% attack gauge boost, I think, is amazing. The more turns she gets, and I think this is why she works, is she has this attack speed increase. So if you just build her very fast, you'll also see on the rest of her kit, she also has more attack speed increase. So even though the percentage of attack gauge down on her kit, it's just she is getting so many turns that the percentages are enough. It's just enough to keep your opponent or the bosses from doing anything, which is really cool. So her baseline relic is her fire relic, and on her skill 1, which is the skill that you will be using for a decent amount of the time, just because of that second passive that, reduces the attack gauge even more. This is attack one enemy, and it has a 30% chance to reduce the target's attack gauge by 15%. So Again, another small percentage. However, if you pair it with her passive and it's leveled up, you're decreasing it by 35% because you have the 20 from the passive and then 15% here. So that's much better. A 35% attack gauge reduction is very nice. Her skill 2 is very good as well. It attacks all enemies twice and has a 50% chance to reduce the target's attack gauge by 20% and grants all allies attack speed increase 1. So she has another way to give herself attack speed increase. I will say the downside with Claudas is she's much better to use as you manual her because you can alternate between skill 2, which gives herself attack speed increase, and then her skill 1, which ties into her second passive. Her second passive needs attack speed increase to actually activate her second passive. So you can go skill 2, give yourself attack speed increase, and then you can go to the skill 1 and reduce the attack gauge by up to 35%. It's very nice. However, if you're on auto, at least one of the examples that we're going to show today, I use the second attack the most because she has the ability to use the attack gauge decrease while also giving all of your allies attack speed increase 1. Also, if you don't have her in Vigor set, which I do not, I don't have her in Vigor set, she has the possibility of using her skill 1 whenever it loops back around to her, depending on how much Vigor you're using in the rest of the team, because she might not always have 2 Vigor, and that's whenever she defaults to her first skill, which, again, ties into her second passive. So that's very nice. We're going to talk about her gear. So the gear that I have her in, and I just unlocked this orb. I don't know if we have attack speed. I'm sure we've got at least one hanging around here. Hopefully. Wow, not a single one, huh? Oh, let's do this one. We're not even using him. So there you go. So I have her in speed gear, which is very important. You want her to just be going as fast as she can to loop back around to her skills. And then I have her in effect accuracy set because you do need her to have a little bit of effect accuracy to decrease attack gauge. So I've hit accuracy on this. I think this is the only like viable accuracy piece I had that wasn't flat stats. So I was just like, okay, whatever, we'll use hit accuracy. So yeah, we have accuracy and speed set. So her speed is probably extremely slow for most people's standards, but for me, it's okay. And then her effect accuracy is 66%. So I have her in high speed and then high effect accuracy to just churn out those maximum amount of attack gauge decreases while also keeping your team with attack speed up. And like I mentioned, because she's not in Vigor, she has the ability to kind of loop to her skill 1 whenever you're autoing. Now, her third ability is just like an abnormal status. This might have a little bit of effect, maybe in favor dungeons, a little bit maybe in like arena. I could see this being a thing because her third passive is pretty good, especially if it's especially if you have the Chivalry 1, inflicting speed decrease 2 and reducing the target's attack gauge by 20%. I think that's nice. You know, it's still a reasonable skill, especially if you can control somebody with the confusion. So her skill 3 does have some uses. Her other relics, I think, are also kind of interesting. I ended up pulling her Frost Relic, and this also has a 50% chance to reduce the target's attack gauge by 20%. This is whatever. You know, you don't add the attack speed up and you get the same percent chance for the same amount of attack gauge decrease. It's not really great. But she does have like an additional damage ability here, which is interesting. This turns into an 8-hitter if somebody has a normal status. So, I don't know. It's just a very high multiplier. It can be 320 damage. So, I'm sure there's some uses here with this. Her Storm Relic, I think, is the best one, though, because this skill 3 is an AoE attack gauge reduction, along with attack speed increase 2, which is great. And then you get to utilize her third passive, which is the attack speed decrease and even more attack gauge down. So I don't know, that's actually really cool. But we are just showcasing off the fire relic today, and the first place, and I think the place that she's best, is actually in the Keepsake dungeon. So the whole name of the game with this dungeon is to just not let the boss play. It's the only dungeon in the game that I think has 3 waves on, starting on stage 7. And this is really important because you can get possible 5-star keepsakes. And you're also getting the materials to be able to craft these keepsakes, which I was mentioning in yesterday's video about getting, hit with this mid-game plateau stuff. So let's go in and show this team. Now, Jillian is obviously extremely important. If you want to speed this up, you can use Bedivere in this slot, and we're going to do that just to showcase the benefits of having Claudas. So we'll manual this. You can do it on auto, but Claudas is going to be just using her S2 to possibly reduce the attack gauge of these little dragons, and then also give everyone attack speed increase to make sure that they just really never get a turn. So between Claudas, between Morgan, and between Jillian, landing their attack gauge reduction while having Bedivere go in and just smoke the baby dragons, they might get 1 turn possibly. It does happen because Claudas's attack gauge reduction is only 50% chance, so there are times where it misses, but if you have the ability to actually kill these dragons quick enough, they won't ever get a turn. You do have these rare instances where this dragon gets that damage immunity up, and we'll have a video on this, I think, in the near future. Best heroes to use in this dungeon, because this dungeon is extremely important. So yeah, we're reducing attack gauge, keeping the speeds up on all of our heroes so they're able to loop back around. And now we've gotten to the dragon that has damage immunity up. We'll let him attack us, and then we'll move on. But pretty straightforward. The same thing that you're seeing Claudas do here, she's going to do on the boss as well. And he might get 1 or 2 turns just because she might miss, Jillian might miss, Morgan might miss, or might not get enough reduction. All of these things, I think, can be mitigated with additional speed, all of those things. But yeah, all right, so moving on to the boss. I do want to showcase like a scenario like this. This is what I was talking about. Sometimes whenever Claudas is not in Vigor set, she will not have her second ability available. And that's okay, because that first ability has the ability to reduce the attack gauge, and you're utilizing her second passive, which does not have a cooldown, right? So anytime you're coming back around to her, and she has that's only her skill 1 available, she's going to reduce the attack gauge at least by 20%. And that might just be enough to allow her to get an additional turn to loop back around to her second skill and increase the attack speed of all of your allies, which is really important for Morgan and Jillian to loop back around to their attack gauge meter reductions. So here, you see Claudas actually jumped in front of that leg. So Bedivere is in here to obviously deal the most amount of damage. Like I mentioned, you can do this with Clementine. You can do it with Rosier. It's just going to take longer, and I didn't want this video to be super long. So that's all we're doing. So even when Claudas misses with her attack gauge reduction, because she's giving your entire team attack speed increase, you're still looping around to your other heroes that have the capability to land the attack gauge reduction. So we missed there with Jillian. Let's see if we can get the reduction. So we missed the reduction there, but we've looped back around to Morgan, and she was successfully able to reduce it. And that's it. So you kind of have like 3 fail safes, which is why Jillian's so good. So again, Jillian just got it down a little bit. And here we've looped back around to Claudas that does not have our skill 2. So we will get 100% reduction on the attack gauge meter. There you go. And it was, again, it's just enough. It's just enough to let Morgan go. Again, it's just enough to maybe get another attack in with Bedivere. And because Morgan reduced, now Claudas goes in front again. So we have even more chances to possibly reduce this attack gauge, or right there, we almost killed him. So now this boss gets 1 turn, okay? Gets 1 turn, but still it isn't enough to kill us. So we're going to go on to the 3rd fight, that rare 3rd wave for these dungeons, and we'll see if we have enough. I've done this like 40 times, and we've basically passed every time we've done it. But of course, whenever I start recording, who knows? But I think at this point, you guys get the point. I doubt this is 100% just because I don't have everything skilled up. I don't have, all of the skills available on Morgan. But yeah, so again, loop back around. We do not have the skill 2, but we're going to get the attack gauge reduction meter on the boss no matter what, because of the skill 1 on her passive 2. So yeah, this is basically the name of the game. Just keep reducing, keep the attack speeds up on all of your heroes, so then the boss never gets a turn or only gets 1 turn. And you can clear the dungeon. And as I mentioned, I think just more speed is what ends up making this a little bit easier and more consistent. More damage out of your heroes, better gear, all of those things. Because this is only stage 7, so this isn't extremely impressive. However, I was just wanting to bring you guys, a little showcase of what Claudas can do, even though it seems like her kit isn't amazing. The other area that we'll kind of talk about is with, what's his name? The Shrine of Storms, the cat. I honestly I don't even care about that dungeon right now. It's just so overpowered for such minimal gain. But she's obviously fantastic there. So here the boss did get a charge turn, but he's going to end up dying, I think. Because he's not even going to get to loop back around to his skill to do all this big damage, because we're going to kill him with Bedivere in time. So yeah, that's Claudas. I think she's great on this dungeon, obviously. Just ties in so well with Morgan and Jillian. And there you go. We're getting some 4-star orbs. And then more importantly, the actual materials. So yeah, great there. She's an amazing addition as well in the favor dungeons. I think that's pretty obvious. The Hound favor dungeon is very limited. I do like these heroes, though. I think Urian's is really strong. He does great damage. I have Guinevere in a damage set. And yeah, you have a great healer in Turin. So the kind of skill order I have here is Turin using the S2. You have Urian's doing his main damage dealing ability for really high damage output, and you just want Guinevere to kind of clean up. So you have Claudas in there reducing the attack gauge and then just speeding everyone up to get more turns. And it's kind of like a nice clear. So Guinevere has charged up a little bit. They have their own Claudas, by the way. But our Claudas is better. And this really helps, with being able to get those statues, which I was saying is probably why people are plateauing. They're not unlocking all of the available stats to them, and they're not able to take advantage of, those additional set bonuses that you get from the keepsakes. So she is pumping out a little bit of damage. So even if Urian's dies, we have her and we have Guinevere to do the additional damage. I know we're using 2 legendaries here, but this is a pretty thin favor dungeon. But yeah, that's basically Claudas in a nutshell, guys. Once this runs over, I think we'll just mention Shrine of Storms. I will not do a run in there. But the whole thing with Shrine of Storms is that cat, anytime you put attack gauge reduction on him, he reduces his attack gauge even more. So her small amounts of attack gauge reduction end up being really huge in that dungeon. But yeah, so this is, Favor Dungeon 8, which is a decent level. She might be able to help you with stage 9. If I have my Urians leveled up a little bit more, we might be able to clear 9 and then eventually 10. So yeah, just that quick mention of Shrine of Storms real quick, and I'm getting out of your guys' hair. So in the power-up dungeon, Shrine of Storms, this old cat, anytime he gets his attack gauge reduced, he reduces his attack gauge even more by 30%. So if you're using Claudas' skill 1 all the time, or alternating between her skill 2 and skill 1, you're going to be reducing his attack gauge at a minimum by 50% every time. So that's kind of key. But anyway, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.